Welcome to the first Hayley-Roxanna Crafts quick crochet video, where I share information, hints and tips on one area of crochet in a short video. In this video, I'm focusing on the difference between UK and US terminology. While all crocheters from wherever they are in the world share hooks and yarn in common, there are differences in the terminology used in different parts of the world. Generally, there are two standards used, UK terminology and US terminology. One is not better than the other. It purely comes down to what you are used to and personal preferences as to which one you use. However, in order to understand crochet patterns correctly and confidently, it is necessary to be aware of and have a knowledge of the differences. Most of the time, crochet designers will state whether their patterns are in UK or US terms, but sometimes they don't, so it is handy to be able to recognise the clues to which is being used. Some of the difficulties in doing this is down to the same stitch names being used in both UK and US terms, but they are referring to different stitches. For example, a UK double crochet is a US single crochet, and a US treble is a UK double treble. So it is easy to see how you could end up with a completely different finished product to what you were expecting if you were working in US terms and the pattern was in UK terms, or vice versa. Here is a list of common stitches used in crochet with the UK and US equivalent terms side by side. Please feel free to screenshot this list, but I will also share it on my other social media pages for you. In later videos, I will demonstrate each of these stitches, but essentially in UK terminology of crochet stitches, the names refer to the number of loops on your hook, while the US terminology uses the names to refer to the number of yarn overs when pulling up your first loop. Hopefully, this will become clear when I demonstrate the stitches. So what clues do we need to look for to determine if the pattern we are looking at is in UK or US terms, assuming it is not stated in the notes accompanying the pattern? So here is a list that I will now go through with you. The most obvious clue that the pattern has been written in US terms is if single crochets are mentioned, whether on their own or as part of an instruction, such as to single crochet two together, for example, as there are no single crochets in UK terminology. The second clue is to look for half double stitches or half treble stitches. If half double stitches are in the pattern, then it is a pattern in US terms, but if half treble stitches are mentioned, then the pattern is in UK terms. The third thing to look at is other terminology used beside the stitches. For example, US patterns will often refer to gauge, whereas UK patterns will say tension when referring to the number of stitches and rows to make a specific size. Also, in UK patterns, yarn over hook, or YOH, is often used when referring to taking the yarn over the hook, whereas in US patterns, this is often shortened to just yarn over, or YO. Another option is to look for the location of the author of the pattern. If they are from the UK, they will have most likely used UK terms, but if they are from America, they will have most likely used US terms. Furthermore, authors from Australia tend to use UK terminology, however authors from South Africa tend to use either. If all else fails and you are unable to determine which terminology is being used, find contact details for the author or their publishers and ask. This is not something that's actually that difficult these days, as most crochet designers have social media. So what do you do if you've found a design you love, but the pattern is in UK terms and you prefer US terms? Such as this free pattern from the Hobbycraft website, which is for making mini stockings. I'll put a link to this in my description as well. You might be able to just translate it in your head as you crochet it. So you'll automatically think, if you see double crochet, oh, that's a single crochet, etc. You might need to have a chart, like the one I shared earlier, showing the equivalent stitches. Or it might even be easier to just go through the pattern before you start making it and literally change the stitches. So for example here, on this section, it's got double crochet. So if I wanted it in American terms, that would be a single crochet. The half treble would become a half double. So that would be a half double again. A treble would be a double crochet. Half double, single. So you could literally just mark it on there, cross out the UK terms and just write in the US terms and go through the whole pattern before you start doing that for all the stitches. If you want to be really neat, you could use like Tipp-Ex or whiteout or correction fluid to remove the UK terms and then write the US terms in the place instead. And obviously if you've got a pattern in US terms that you would prefer to be in UK terms, you can change that in the same way, either doing it in your head, using a list, or just purely crossing out the US terms and writing in the UK ones instead. So if you have any questions about the differences between UK and US terminology, please pop them in the comments. And in next week's video, I will talk about the yarns and hooks used for crochet.